The Fujicast is an independent Loading Zone production.
Kev, what a week. We've both done quite interesting things, I like to think. I found my my birth mum, my natural mum, my blood relative, what's it called? Anyway, I found my mum's grave in Maidstone. Meanwhile, you have been to see Martin Parr, who is still very much alive.
He is, although I have to say he's getting on a bit now. He's got a bit of a bad back, and
Don't say that.
He was talking about how he finds photography a bit easier now because he's got a mobility scooter.
What?
And nobody he doesn't find it threatening.
Really,
yeah.
Martin Parr?
Yeah, I know.
Well, not that there's anything wrong with having a mobility scooter, but I can't imagine Martin Parr within the very piece of kit that he photographs within some of his stories.
Yeah, no, I was a bit surprised by that as well. But anyway, yeah, I mean, he's still okay. Myself and Paul Waring went yesterday, which would be last Wednesday,
right?
To the Martin Parr Foundation, and it was good actually. He had so he was basically just talking about his latest 5 books. So the way it worked was we paid £5 each to go in,
right,
for him to show us pictures from his 5 latest books, and then for us to buy his books off him. And that was basically how it worked out.
He's sorted. He's sorted.
He's got it sorted. But a couple of people came up to me during the show and said, "Oh, hi Kevin, I really like the podcast." So that's good.
So
that was really nice.
They all turned away from Martin. And never mind, Mr. Parr. Mullins is over here.
The Fujicast.
He's the one. And they all descended upon you. I tell you what, if he's got five latest books, is it? Are these 5?
5 most recent.
Most recent. But so he's still quite prolifically making books.
Oh my word, yeah, and zines and everything, you know. And don't forget, you know, that I was a bit disingenuous then. It is a not-for-profit organisation, so all of that money he does make goes back into the foundation, which is not just his stuff; it's archiving basically the world's collection of photography.
Yeah. I tell you what, you'd need a scooter to sort of put with one of those big baskets on the front to get all these books in there these days. By the sound of it, is that prolific? Good.
It's an amazing place.
Yeah, I've never been there, and I really do want to go. Are you? There's various different memberships. So you're a member, aren't you? Still?
I was. I'm not any longer, but you can still go. You can go. Anybody can go. You can go in and have a look at the exhibitions and all of that kind of stuff. But as a member, you get the tour, and you can go in to see the archives and the private library and all that, which I did previously. But you know, what with not being able to buy more than 2 tomatoes and 1 carrot in this country, and of course, it's even though no other country in the whole of the European Union, including current cold countries, sourcing tomatoes, it is nothing to do with the B word. Does the BBC mention the B word?
Well, no, it's not to do with Brexit, this one. I had a real go at my auntie and uncle who I stay with this week. Says, "Oh, your fault, can't get tomatoes." When all the time I knew it wasn't really their fault at all. Oh, by the way,
it was too hot in Spain, too cold in Spain. Yeah. But oddly, the people in Denmark and Finland, who also get their tomatoes from Spain, they don't seem to be having any problems.
They don't eat as many. No, they don't eat as many.
Oh, that's it, is it? That's it. They're healthier than us.
Don't forget, we have tomato.
They're more healthy than us.
We are a nation fueled by tomato ketchup, Kev.
That's right. Yeah.
We literally make our houses with it. We don't have concrete or mortar. We stick them together with Heinz tomato ketchup. That's why we need so many.
Tomato ketchup on everything, even she'll put it on top of gravy on a Sunday roast.
No, that's disgusting, Kev. That's not a good habit at all. Right. So
sometimes I need to eat it in the street.
Kev today, by the way, is on. He can't make his Zoom work, so he sounds like he's a little bit in the lavatory today. Unless you really are in the lavatory.
Oh yeah, I am. I always do it in the lab.
Oh. There's a.
No, I'm not. I've got Zoom issues for some reason. So, and I've had them for a couple of weeks, but
have you?
We'll sort them out. Don't worry.
Should we swap to Skype? Should we do by magic? Here he is now on Skype, and see if it makes any difference.
We can.
Should we do that?
I prefer Skype.
Do you prefer Skype? I'll Skype you. Have you got one of those dodgy addresses like people that are hiding things on WhatsApp?
Yeah. my name is Beautiful Laura 646.
I'm there. I'll be with you. I'll be with you in 2 shakes of an MP. Hold on. Are you there, Kev?
Yeah.
Oh, you're already much richer.
Yeah.
Right, on the show today, because we run out the theme tune. On the show today, we have got, of course, your emails, your questions, either to the email address or by Facebook. I will remember not to call it, you know what. And we've got our guest, Ali. Ali is back for part 2. Ali Stuart-Ross is back for part 2. But also, this is probably a good time to mention it. Thank you very much to our sponsors, pic-time.com. Also today, we have something special, Kev. Explainez-vous.
We do. So I sat down with Amir and Narit, who are the famed-in members of Pic-Time, and I chatted to them a little bit about how Pic-Time came about and the backstory and stuff. But mostly we talked about the new blogging features, which are rolling out in Pic-Time to Pic-Time subscribers right now, which is amazing. So if you are a Pic-Time subscriber, you will want to hear that, and it's all about the blogging stuff, which is part of your package. You don't have to pay anything extra for it, but we will roll that whole interview, if you like, at the end of this show. So we don't want to burden people who are not Pic-Time users with it. So it will be right at the end of the show. You can hear that interview with me and Narit. And
if you're not a Pic-Time user, you should be. If for any reason you need to show your work online, yes. But we thought we'd do it as a bonus material piece at the end, so it's concentrated and so that you can hear the whole thing. I know I should probably wait until I've heard the interview, but are you going to use the blog facility? Is it something that you might use, or because you are a working professional with a blog, I know you call it stories, but essentially a blog, is it something that you would or contemplate using?
Yeah, definitely. Although I'm probably going to use it in a slightly different way. My plan is to do private blog posts for clients and do it that way. So yeah, rather than kind of integrate it into Squarespace, which you can do very easily. Right. But yes, that's my plan.
Why would you have a personal blog for clients when you do a slideshow for them already, or should I wait for the money at the end?
No, because we don't really talk about that in the interview itself. But I want to. It can be more personal, can't it? It can be like from my point of view, rather than this is a wedding and I'm using this blog post to market to future clients. I can do a private blog post that's part of their package. You will get, as part of your package with Mullins Photography Inc., you will get your own private blog post where, I'll talk about my interaction with your great Auntie Maud and all of that stuff and blah, blah, blah. And you can send that to your friends and family and they can, do what they want with it.
So does that mean you're going to take notes during the wedding and you'll note when things happen so that you can refer back to them?
No, I remember everything from every single wedding I've been to.
You do not, Mullins.
I do. I'm like an elephant.
Oh, God, don't say that. My uncle, I went to see my auntie and uncle, as I mentioned, and my uncle said to me, if there has ever been a driver, Kev, to lose a little bit of excess, as we call it, then it would be my uncle saying, "Oh, look, you're like me, you've got a parcel shelf." I said, "A what?" He said, "A parcel shelf." I excused myself for a moment and then looked at myself in the mirror and said, "That is it."
Yeah, I know. I hear your pain. I've spent the last 2 weeks, 3 weeks since my grading just drinking and eating.
But you are a lean, mean fighting machine, Kev.
I'm a fat Buddha.
I wouldn't fancy my chances in the ring with you. I'd be thrown through the window within no time. Right, questions. You going first or me?
I'll go first, if you so wish.
Go on then.
Right, as in time-honoured tradition, we will start with the most recent one, which is 18 hours ago as of time of recording. And Robert Lyskowski, who we heard from a couple of weeks ago, I think.
Oh, yeah,
hello again, he says. I will be brief this time. As I mentioned in my previous question, my family won't pose for me. My wife does not like a majority of her pictures. My 11-year-old daughter quickly learned that she can say, "Do not take my pictures if I do not allow you." Oh. And if I ask her why, she would just say, "Because I do not like you taking pictures of me."
Well, be careful there, because there are current lawsuits going on, I think in America, aren't there, of kids that are now taking their parents to court for using their images on Facebook.
Oh, God.
Because they didn't grant them permission at the time when they were 5.5.
Yeah, right. I'm not even. That's not even going in my brain. Matter.
Invasion of privacy.
Yeah. Robert goes on to say, I think she's just copying other adult behaviour, but I really struggle. Yeah. I print her some of the photos and she's happy, but at a constant struggle. Now, she has a nice collection of images with her hand pointing at the lens, which is cute in its own way. Sometimes I feel a Bruce Gilden in my own house. How do you approach this? Any great suggestions which will also keep my marriage safe? Greetings from the East.
Blimey, I don't know. I mean, you've got to respect what people say, particularly in your family, if they don't want their picture made, haven't you? But it is a shame, because you'll end up with no history of... I suppose you could sit them down one day and give them the Mullins talk. Listen, kids, this is all about...
My way or no way.
Yeah, no, well, I wasn't thinking about that one. I was thinking about the historical significance of pictures and nostalgia speech.
Yeah, I think, it's a really tricky one, isn't it? Because, the thing is, so your daughter's 11, my son's 11, Robert, and my daughter is nearly 15, which is like breaking my heart in a million pieces. However... they are very good, and they've kind of grown up with it, and I definitely get the, I want to look at that picture before you put it on Instagram or anything. And I don't really publish much of them these days because, well, let's face it, they're not as cute as they used to be. They're just kind of teenagers.
Don't tell them
and stuff.
that, Kev.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's if they say no and they mean it, then that's it. I also don't take very many pictures of Gemma because she doesn't like having a photograph taken either, which is sad. And it's just, that's the way it is, I think. And you can, I suppose it's a long-term educational thing. My kids have grown up, and as your kids, Jack and Thomas have also grown up with you with a camera pointing at their life.
Yeah, they're very indifferent to having pictures made.
Yeah, exactly. And I think if it's a newer thing for you, I don't know, Robert, if you've been photographing your kids all their 11 years of their lives, or if it's newer, then it might be a bit more tricky. But, I would, start printing things out and start, doing a little mini book. You do one every year, don't you, Neil, for the family, and let them see it. Let them see the importance of it. Maybe if you've got any old family albums of your own from your parents' time or your grandparents' time, dust them out, get them out of the attic, dust them and show them. And, this is me when I was a little kid on the beach or whatever. And, let them understand that it is important. But yeah, I mean, it's a sign of the times. And kids, the problem is they go to school, and quite rightly, the school are educating them on privacy and online protection and, safeguarding. And that's absolutely the right thing to do. But at the same time, that can often bring in mixed messages, I think, a little bit in terms of, actually, you're my dad. That's okay. Should be. So yeah, tricky one.
My kids, of course, we're further on, so this might not be relevant now, but they do enjoy looking back at each of these years' books, particularly the ones from a long time ago, and they think, oh yeah, I remember we went to Mallorca, and I remember going in that swimming pool. Oh, there's the elephant that I used to dive off, and all that sort of, that's in the swimming pool, not in Africa. All that sort of stuff. Yeah. They like all that, but then you're right, they grew up with it. It's just not an issue for them.
Yeah, it is tricky.
Yeah, tricky one.
Just sit down with your 11-year-old daughter and just say, this is how it's going to be.
This is the problem with this perfect world, Kev, that we live in. Everything needs to be perfect.
Yeah. And also, Robert, when you next time you're at the supermarket, I think you're in Poland, send us over some tomatoes, mate.
Yeah, we could do with some. This one is from Brad Wakefield. We know Brad, friend of ours, Brad Wakefield. Although he doesn't say, he just says hi. There's no hi Kev or Neil, just hi. Yeah, I hope you're both well. Listen to the show, so I thought I'd try and think of a couple of questions. Okay. There's two here. Okay. I've been working as a photographer for over a decade. I thought Brad was almost 2 decades into this photographic thing. He does look younger than us, Kev, so maybe it is just over a decade.
He's fit and healthy and good looking. He can't possibly be like anything not like us.
No, you're absolutely right. And I feel like I've got just about enough experience to perhaps offer... What do you mean? I mean, he's been a press photographer. He's done all sorts of stuff. Just enough experience to perhaps offer a form of mentoring or workshop option to my business. What's the best way to get started with this? There's a several part to this first one. How do you attract business rather, if you're not a household name? And can you remember your first workshop, Kev? What was it like? What advice would you give? Let's unpick this or unpack this and do one at a time. What's the best way to get started with this? First of all, he believes he's got the experience. And he certainly has, because he's done social photography, he's done news photography, he's done PR photography, he's done commercial photography. So I would say, with a decade of that experience plus, he has the experience required or necessary. But what's the best way to get started?
Yeah, well, you've got to find something that people want to learn from you. So there has to be an element of experience, of course. It could be, look at your background, Brad, and think, okay, what can I do? I'm predominantly a wedding photographer now, but I've got a massive experience in press photography. Do they overlap? Do I use my press photography skills while I'm shooting weddings? Is that a mini workshop in its own right? Look at everything. And I know Brad's a very talented photographer. He does. I've seen his underwater work. I can't imagine there's too many kind of workshops based on underwater stuff.
Yeah, I forgot about that bit. That's what he started doing, that, isn't he?
Yeah. So you have whatever it is. You have to be, confident in it and also be an expert in it for sure, or at least think you're an expert in it. Don't go, running around doing workshops and things that you're not quite sure about yourself. So yeah, that's it. And in terms of getting people to go to it, well, certainly my biggest driver for my education stuff is good old-fashioned mailing list. Got about 8,000 people on it now, and every time I've got a new set of workshops, I just press a button in Squarespace and off it goes, and then people book up.
Now, that's how you do it, but you had to get that mailing list to a certain figure, certain number, certain size. And I think that plays into his next question. How do you attract business if you're not a household name? Now, I know you're going to say to me straight, well, I'm not a household name. Mick Jagger, he's a household name, but you know what I mean. Within your own environment, within your own genre, and because you worked hard to hold an ambassadorial position down for so long, that clearly helps.
That did help, but I was doing workshops before then. So, I had a similar conversation the other day. Somebody sent me an email, and it was about, how do I get my picture seen by people? It's, on Instagram, it's all right for you with your, you've got a following and 35,000 Instagram followers or whatever. And I just replied and said, yeah, but I didn't at the beginning.
Yeah.
I had zero. We're all born naked, put it that way. And, it depends on how you choose to put your clothes on and how fast you put them on.
What? I don't want to think about this, Kev.
That's it, though, isn't it? We all start in the same place. So that whole thing about household name, or you've got a following, it's all right for you, you're an ambassador, all that kind of stuff. It's 100% irrelevant, because we all, I wasn't, and you weren't, and you do workshops, and you do the podcasting for photographers, all of that kind of stuff. But people will say, yeah, but it's all right for you because you've got all the equipment. You're a radio DJ. You're this. You're that. Blah blah blah. And you just say, well, yeah, but I wasn't at the beginning. I wasn't. I put the graft in, the effort, and all that kind of stuff. And so, ultimately, you've got to, the same principle for dragging business out of the ground for shooting weddings is the same for workshops, isn't it? You're essentially you need to offer something that people want, and you need to price it at a point that people will pay. And that's it. And whether that's a case of putting the hard yards in at the beginning, Facebook, Instagram, all that kind of stuff, starting to collect mailing lists. The for photographers section on my website is where it's the only place where I collect the mailing list. That mailing list doesn't pop up on my main wedding area kind of thing. I don't get clients clicking on it. And you've got to go that way and start canvassing and seeing what people want. Yeah, it's just like getting business anywhere. You've got to kind of do it. Just get out there, do it.
Can I use the C word, Kev? Courage.
Yes.
And that when it comes to charging, you need some courage. You need to know your worth. You need to appreciate your worth. This is one of my Achilles heels, because I was only having a conversation the other day with a photographer who I interviewed, who said, "You need to know your worth, Neil." I thought I was told off for the right reasons. I mean, when you set your prices, Kev, there is an element of, well, it's all sorts of things that play here. Self-belief, courage, all those sort of things.
Of course, there is that, and it's just the same as pricing weddings, isn't it? Some people underprice, some people overprice, some people get it spot on for their skill level, experience, all of that kind of stuff. So, I mean, it's not an answer you can just give in terms of, this is Brad, I know Brad's, this is what you should do a workshop on, and this is how much you should charge, and this is where you're going to get your clients. But I do know Brad. I do know he has the capabilities to do that kind of thing. But you don't undersell yourself for sure. But also, like workshops in the UK, people are reluctant to give money to other photographers. Certainly in the wedding world, there are people out there who will invest in education, and that's important. I still go on workshops myself, but it seems like in the United States, they are far more comfortable with understanding the value of education, whereas a lot of people in the UK go, why is he earning money from workshops?
Yeah, it's a very different mentality. Indeed,
exactly.
Right, yeah. There was another last part of this particular question. Can you remember your first workshop, Kev? Which kind of plays into my question of saying, when's the right time? When is the first one? I mean, my first, Kev, I think came after, it was reasonably early, because I went from doing 5-10 weddings a year to 80 weddings a year within 5-6 years. So I felt at that point I was thinking, whoa, this is working. I can do something about sort of maximising weddings and handling the amount you do and all the marketing and so on and so forth to get there. But I mean, when is the right time? When can you do a workshop, Kev? Is it 3 or is it 4? When are you?
That's way too young.
You know what I mean.
I refused. I had lots. So here's a little bit of history about my workshop stuff. I refused to do a workshop until I'd been shooting weddings for 5 years.
Right.
I didn't think it was right, and I did have quite a few people saying, "Oh, are you ever going to do a workshop?" And I held off under 5 years, and I still didn't think that I was eligible to do kind of wedding photography workshops or street photography or anything like that. But the one thing that I did have a very good knowledge of at that time was SEO for photographers. So that was the very first workshop, was SEO for photographers.
Right, yeah.
And I also remember doing, SWPP wanted me to do a master, super, I don't know, whatever they call it, the open classes.
No, master class, wasn't it?
The SWPP convention, not the one that, like the open rooms. Right. And I said, yeah, all right, I'll do it on SEO for photographers. And they were like, that people really like it when there's a model and you can take photos of it and stuff. Right. Okay. I was like, all right, well, I won't do it then. And then they kind of came back and said, okay, you can do it. And no word of a lie, it was the biggest attended session that year. Ooh. This was like 10 years ago or whatever it was. Ooh. And it was packed, absolutely packed. People were like at the door, and people were complaining they couldn't get in and all that kind of stuff. And that's when I started doing like the independent SEO for photographers workshops. Then I did them for a while. I stopped doing that because people were ripping it off. I even found one guy had posted the PDF on eBay for sale. All of that kind of stuff. So I do those on a kind of one-to-one basis now. But yeah, that was my knowledge. So I had very, very good knowledge because that was my previous world of that, and that's what I kind of started out my workshop world with. And I think it was probably 7 or 8 years at least before I actually did a wedding photography workshop, maybe even more. Do
you think there's more in so you have to put your British head on for this one. Do you think there's more appetite for one-to-ones in the UK than there is now for the larger workshop classes?
I don't know, to be honest with you. I mean, during lockdown, of course, I did a load of one-to-ones all over Zoom. But yeah, I don't know. I'm going to say no.
Right. So still the larger class.
One-to-ones are more expensive, obviously. Yeah. It's one-to-one. So, I mean, my biggest, the thing that always sells out really quickly for me is my one-day wedding photojournalism workshop, which I only do twice a year, and then the street photography ones, especially the ones in London, they just fly off the shelves, and that's it. And yeah, people will go, but it's, you know, the one-to-one stuff is dried up. I still do a bit of it, but it's nowhere near like, you know, shortly after the pandemic and during the pandemic.
Do you remember the last episode we had? We had one question that seemed to hold the attention for the entire first half. I think this might be very similar. What do you think holds people back from pushing their... this is like a $60 million question now from Brad, who has signed off with a kiss, by the way. I think that's more for you than me. What do you think holds people back from pushing their photography forwards? Well, self-belief is, and I talked to Brad about this, so sort of, I suppose, full disclosure, if you like, and we were having a conversation about this following his question, and it was all to do with belief and this horrible thing. It's become a buzzword, hasn't it? This imposter syndrome. And I think a lot of photographers suffer from that. I think self-belief holds people back from all sorts of things in life. From believing you'll get a black belt through to, believing that there'll be enough tomatoes for the ketchup next week.
If we're talking about this in terms of, as Brad said, what stops people pushing their photography forward, I'm assuming he means into a working capacity of a workshop. Something like that. Oh no, I think
they might be mutually exclusive, but I suppose if you take it from a, I don't think he's asking about the workshop. I think he's talking more about photographers pushing forward and getting the next level.
Well, then I would ask probably what's the objective, and what is the next level? What is it you're striving for? Is it more money, or is it more exposure, or is it more interesting work? Whatever, I know that some people will struggle, putting pictures on their blog or on Instagram or whatever, but they shouldn't. Yeah, that imposter syndrome thing, ultimately don't worry about what other photographers think. Just worry about what clients think. Yeah. Now, if you're an editorial or you're a Magnum photographer or something like that, your clients are not your clients are not other photographers. Your clients are the commission, and I can't imagine they'd be sat there going, I don't know, I'm going to get paid for this, but I don't really want to put it publicly because of what other photographers will think. That I just don't think that would be going through their head. It will be like, I've done this and I've made my money from it. And that's the important thing, isn't it? But I think if you're a photographer who wants projects and not necessarily, like NGO work or something, not necessarily for income, then you do need to put your work out there, and you just have to get over that hurdle, really.
Yeah, the introspection can be a problem for many, many photographers.
That's an artist's problem, isn't it? Yeah. Artists generally,
but the two are bed partners, though. That's the problem about photography: is creativity and money, which, as a friend said to me recently, don't necessarily go together too well.
No, exactly. I mean, look at how many artists have, sadly kind of killed themselves, cut their own ears off, whatever. Musicians, artists, painters, sculpturists, ultimately they're their own worst critics. I think it's much harder these days, obviously, because the open shop window of the internet is there, and I thought it was quite interesting last night. Martin Parr thing was, there were some images there that I know, like I loved all of them because I love his work. But I know that there would be some people would be going, well, I could have done that, Yeah. And the fact is, perhaps they could have done that, but they didn't.
But they didn't. No.
They weren't the ones that got commissioned by the Lawn Tennis Association to do the behind the scenes at Wimbledon. No. And and so you can moan and whinge about it as much as you want, and then of course the question will be, yeah, but that's Martin Pye. He's Magnum. It's like, but he wasn't beginning. He worked hard in a local newspaper and got where he wanted to go. So, it's hard work, isn't it? And, this is a very long conversation. That's probably already too long. But ultimately, if you work hard, rewards will come. That's my motto. Or one of my mottos. I've got loads of mottos. One of them is Brexit is bollocks.
I was actually heading towards a really nice dovetail bit where I was going to say, talking of hard work, although you've driven a JCB through that, talking of hard work, rewind, pretend Kev didn't say that bit, which I will leave in though. Talking of working hard, Ali Stuart-Ross. That was my link, Kev.
That was it, yeah. Ali is the second part of Ali's interview, and she did work very, very hard. And she has got good rewards.
Yes, there we go. Here is a reason.
Maybe even tomatoes.
Maybe even tomatoes. Here's the second part then of Kev's conversation with Ali. We're following on from the last episode where we discovered Facebook marketing worked well for for her newborn photography brand, Mabel and Moose, which is based in eastern Scotland on the beautiful Firth of Tay. Kev was keen to know how many sittings Ali is able to build from that marketing.
It goes up and down. I think I had something like, I can't remember my numbers now. I think I had 90 babies the first year or something like that. So what I do tend to do is I book out my week. I really book it out quite heavily because people will decide to cancel for all sorts of reasons. You know, if you've, you know, when Gemma just had Rosa, for instance, she might have thought it was a fantastic idea to go and have a newborn photo shoot 2 days after she was born until she actually had the baby, and then decided that maybe wasn't the best idea. So I've got mums that will just think, I just can't face getting out of bed, never mind going to a photo shoot. Happens where the baby's late or early or the baby's ill. And I do children up to a year old, so obviously, you know, they can go to bed one night and wake up the next morning and they're not very well. So my week can change. I think the most I've shot in 1 week was something like 10, and I was absolutely exhausted. I had 2 sets of twins, a set of triplets.
So how does a session pan out? They turn up. Let's say they've got the 10 o'clock slot.
Yeah.
They turn up at 10 o'clock. What happens?
They turn up at 10 o'clock. I just have a little 5-10 minute chat to them, let them settle in, let them have a look around the studio so they're really quite comfortable, because they're about to hand me the most precious thing that they've ever owned. And then I've got a beanbag. I photograph the baby on the beanbag and sometimes in the parents' arms. And I really just go with the flow of what the baby needs and wants. So every session's different. And I always tell parents that, because I think parents worry that their baby's not behaving itself. And that's just silly, because babies just do what they do. So sometimes I can literally take 2 pictures of the baby and then sit and chat to the parents for an hour and a half while they feed it. And then we do it all at the end. Other times it's the other way around. Other times, if it's a breastfed baby that's cluster feeding, they'll be on and off and on and off, and it's very sort of intermittent. But I always get a really nice gallery to show them.
It's not, so I guess it's not easy to stack the bookings. So have 1 at 10, 1 at 12, 1 at 2 kind of thing.
No. I've got 1 at 10, and then pretty much they're all at 10. If the baby's a little bit older or it's a first birthday session, I will do it at 2. Very occasionally I do a maternity session later on, but I think I don't really do very many. But pretty much 10 o'clock. They usually last. I always look at my watch and like 10 to 1, and that's it, finished. Really? Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, it's funny how things go like that, isn't it? You
it's weird.
Little patterns of things. So in terms of gear and technology, how are you taking these beautiful pictures?
Well, I have to say, all your listeners will probably throw up their hands in horror. I don't actually think I haven't changed my lens in 2 years. I used to be a complete, I wouldn't say a gear junkie, but yeah, I probably was. I had loads of lenses. The bag looked a bit like yours, never had a lens cap, never had a divider, everything was thrown in. I had long lenses, wide lenses. I only shot prime, wouldn't have touched a zoom. And now I do the whole thing with, do you know what? I don't even know what it is, Kevin. I've got it here. Give me 1 second. That's how interested I am in the actual camera. It is an 18 to 55 kit lens. Okay.
Yeah.
Came with an XT3.
Yeah.
I got after, I don't know if you remember when I came down to Bath to the Fuji X conference, and after I'd done the 2-man workshop and then came to yours, and some lovely sod on the train on the way home nicked all my gear. And
of course, yeah, I remember, yeah.
Everything nicked. And I got one. I had only taken one XT2 with me, and I got it replaced by an XT3, and it came with a kit lens, which I thought, never use that, and threw it in the drawer. Of course, it's actually the only lens I own now, and it has not left the XT3 since I started Mabel and Moose.
Yeah, that's great, isn't it? There's something to be said for for kit lenses and all that kind of stuff, but also just for cohesion of your style. I think if you shoot everything with a particular lens, it makes the images are going to look exactly like what they're seeing on the website. There's no kind of confusion in the client's mind or anything. So that's great. And do you use any kind of, is it all natural? Have you got a nice natural light studio? I have this vision of you in the hills of Scotland with, I know that you love the kind of Scandinavian simplistic approach to things. So I see that I vision this house on a hill that's white and with these beautiful big glass windows and all this lovely open light. I might be way off the mark there, but that's what I envision.
Yeah, you'll need to come and visit, Kevin, with Gemma. No, it's basically a 4-bed detached house in a normal modern estate with a detached garage, which is my studio. So I had the garage converted. It's a double garage, and it's just a normal standard 18-foot by 18-foot garage. And about 18 years ago, when I was doing a lot of commercial work, I had the garage completely properly converted. Because actually, it's quite funny. There's a local company, which some of your listeners might actually have heard of, Mrs. Bridges and Mackay's Jam. They're huge. They're in all the big supermarkets and things. Anyway, they're based in Carnoustie locally. I got the job of photographing all their zillions of different types of jam. They wanted kind of Marks and Spencer's type looking shots plus pack shots, and I was doing it all in my garage, and I did it for about 2 years until the managing director came along to give me some extra jars that we'd forgotten. And what he didn't realise was he knew I was working from home, but it really was a garage. I mean, it wasn't even converted at that point. I had my husband's motorbike in the corner. There was a cage with 4 of the squeakiest guinea pigs with hay everywhere. And anytime I wanted to move the light, because it was a big, it was a bronze colour. I mean, it was like about £20,000 worth of light in this garage. And anytime I wanted to move the light, because it was so tall and there was rafters, I had to take the entire setup down, the table and everything, and move it 4 inches and put it back up. So at that point, I thought, no, I'm going to convert it, and it's been like that ever since. So yeah, it does have windows. It's got 2 big, what were the garage doors as windows, but I don't use natural light. I use strobe or flashes.
What kind of flashes are you using?
2 ancient old Bowens that I've had for about 20 years. They're not even the same power. One's a 250 and one's a 400. All sorts of bits of gaffer tape and stuff holding them together. I haven't had a modelling light in about 14 years.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I love it. I love the way this story evolves, into the success that you kind of become. Now, I don't know if you can share anything, but I always ask this question. Any kind of funny stories that have happened? It doesn't have to be at Mabel and Moose. Perhaps when you're shooting weddings or anything that you immediately strikes you as, oh, that was a day I'll never forget.
Yeah. Oh gosh, I don't know if I can remember them now. I used to have loads from wedding photography and from commercial photography. Well, there was one job I had for a local advertising company, and it was coffins. So they had these I don't know if you've seen these coffins made from wicker. They're like giant Moses baskets, and they also did normal coffins. So the advertising guy and one of the designers and myself and a couple of people from the office dressed in black and went up to our local country park because they had to set up this woodland burial coffin thing. So of course we were all there, and I'm standing. I just looked like the photographer that was photographing the funeral. And we had this coffin and flowers and all the rest of it. And we kept moving it around the park so as they had different bits. It was quite funny because all the people that were out walking their dogs would be silencing their children and walking past with their heads bowed and going, sorry. So, and then we'd pick the coffin up and then we'd like run across the path to another bit. And then the other part of the job was actual proper wooden coffins. So at one point a large van appeared at my house, and these 3 guys dumped about 15 coffins into my garage. So the kids were all sitting in them at night going, oh, this is cool.
Brilliant. That's an incredible story.
I've got so many, honestly. I used to use my kids for everything. I tell you, if anybody's listening and you have small children, become a commercial photographer, because most commercial jobs, like for the council or for all these things, they require people in them. And if it's a child, it's really difficult to get the parents' permission. So of course, I had 4. It was great. They were in every single local publication, every Scottish government thing for years, and they all hate me for it now. And I had my mother-in-law, well, they weren't at the time, but my mother-in-law and father-in-law, who they weren't elderly, they were in their 70s, but I had to do I used to do a lot of jobs where like the Scottish government or big quangos that are up here would just ask me for a bank of photography. So they'd just hire me for like 6 days and say, we need kids crossing the street, we need underage mothers, we need everything. So of course all my children were made into underage mothers. Graham's mum and dad, I remember photographing them, just like stock photography, like his dad turning up the central heating and it was his hand. And there was one photograph that I put in where his mum was bringing his dad a cup of tea, and I just caught them at the wrong moment. They were just so lovely, adored each other, and his dad was looking like daggers at his mum. And I put it in. Well, it ended up on an A4 booklet that went to every house in the entire county. Domestic abuse in the elderly, plastered all over the top of it. So my husband had to go out to their house. Luckily, they were delivered in an envelope. So he went out and removed it from I don't think they ever saw it.
Oh my word, brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Okay, so what's next over the next 6-12 months, Ali, for yourself and Mabel and Moose? How's things going to progress?
Well, I think over the next year, I've introduced a few new products this month, sort of slightly higher end products from Graphy Studio. So I'm going to be doing that. I'm still going to be using all the amazing mounts. I get everything else from 3XM and from Loxley. And I think just growing the business, trying to get my average up a little bit, but not massively. I'm really happy with the way it's going. And I think it's really important. I do want to go into training. I've got some action sets that you've been helping me with them, so they're going to be released reasonably soon. I also work with a natural flow posing guide that I can refer to when I'm not saying get stuck in a shoot, but if you're going along, you don't need to be thinking about which is the next shot you're going to take, because I'm just referring to this guide that I've made. And it's very flexible. If the baby suddenly wakens up, I can jump to another part of it. I've got about 5 of them because I've got baby with just a mum. I've got.
And are these things that people can buy? Are these things you've designed?
Not at the moment, but yes, I'm putting them into a format where they're going to be available for people to buy. So if you've got a little baby that's able to sit up, you would be able to get your flow posing guide and have a look at it. And there'll be one with a sibling, one with 2 mums, one with 2 dads, one with a mum and dad. Perfect. And it makes life just so much easier. You don't need to think about it. I think what I do call myself a photographer, but I think I'm actually almost not a photographer now, because I just use the same camera, the same lens, the same f-stop. I'm really dealing with the baby and the parents and sorting out the backgrounds and the fabric and things like that.
Yeah. Kind of managing.
Obviously, you have to know about photography, because at the minute something goes wrong, you need to be able to change it and fix it. But using a flow posing guide makes things really, really easy.
Yeah. Do you shoot tethered at all? Do you have a screen that you can see that refer to the images on, or is it?
No, just the one on the back of the camera.
Yeah.
And in fact, I use an X-T3. I know an awful lot of newborn photographers are still shooting with a DSLR, and I don't know, it would give me a bit of the fear to be holding a giant D800 above a baby's head or something, and then because I'm quite small, trying to then look into the viewfinder to see what you're getting, whereas I can just hold it above my head. Can't remember the last time I looked through a viewfinder. Even when I was shooting weddings, I didn't use a viewfinder.
Yeah, that's a really good point, actually. You don't want to be dropping a big DSLR on little baby, do you?
No, it's much nicer if you just drop an X-T3. It's not as
That's right, yeah. X-T3, it'll just bounce. And what about do you offer training, that kind of stuff, as well as the cards that might be coming in the future? Do you do kind of
Yes, I haven't offered trainings yet, but I've got so many people asking me about it, and so I've got about, I think 3 is enough to start with this year, in-person workshops, which will be at my studio.
Right, so the final question that I always ask everybody, which always freaks people out when I ask them it, is if you could shoot for one day with one other photographer, either dead or alive, who would it be and why?
Oh gosh, can I have 3? 4?
Yeah, go on then.
I don't know if I can choose. I absolutely adore Sue Bryce. She's fantastic, and I just recently in November went over and she's bringing out a self-value workshop, which is all about self-value, but it's quite linked to photography as well. So I was in the first group of people that were there when she was filming it, so that was fantastic, and we got a day at her studio. So I'd love to spend a day shooting with her.
Yeah.
I'd love, if I was brave enough, I'd love to go back in time and spend a day with Dawn McCullen, but I probably wouldn't be that brave.
Yeah, you might be able to spend a day with him in the rolling hills of Somerset these days. Might be a little bit nicer day out, I would have thought.
I always fancied myself as a war photographer when I was really young, but I would never have had the bravery to do it.
Yeah, I think it's yes, well, bravery. That's the only word to really describe it, isn't it?
Yeah.
Ali, it's been amazing. Thank you so much. Where can people find you? Social media, website, all of that good stuff.
All of that stuff. Well, website is under Mabel and Moose, and it's mabellandmoose.co.uk. My Twitter, I think, is just Mabel and Moose. My Facebook and Instagram is Mabel and Moose Newborn, and I have just started a new Instagram account, which is Mabel and Moose Education. So that's really the one for photographers. And there's a link on the Mabel and Moose Education on Instagram. There's a link to the website that shows the training part of it, if that's what anybody's interested in, because it's not visible to anybody else.
Cool.
Jumping onto my website.
And thanks to Ali Stuart-Ross for her time with us on the podcast over the last couple of episodes. Is it too early, Kev? Tell me, you're going to tell me off now. You say, don't mention it yet, but I'll just sort of tease it in. That perhaps next year, perhaps near the start of the year, perhaps you and I are going to do a special couple of days, perhaps at the House of Photography.
Perhaps, yeah. How old will we be then?
Oh, I don't know, Kev. I don't want to think about stuff like that. I'll be 1 year older.
Thinking more about the podcast. 4?
Oh, I thought you meant us. I was thinking, where's the relevance?
4, because we were born in February, and yeah, it seems like a good time to me.
Oh, could it be our 4th birthday celebration?
Yes, with a few other bits and pieces that we'll work on as ideas. Yeah. Maybe. So sometime early next year, maybe February time. Yeah. We'll try and do some kind of bish bash bosh.
It's toward the latter end of February, because I'm in Africa at the start of February. I know where I am at the start of February.
Yeah,
I'll be up the river, hopefully with a paddle. Otherwise, I will be in trouble. But yeah, so put the whole of February aside, because something special is happening.
Yeah, yeah. Now you've said something about it. We have to actually do something.
Well, I thought that might help.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Questions. Yours from. I hope your wonderful, your much better half is noticing that I've not said it once this week. Here's one from Facebook.
It was our 15-year unofficial wedding anniversary yesterday.
Was it?
15 years, yeah. We've been married twice to each other.
Oh,
so we're technically 15 years was yesterday, our wedding anniversary, but untechnically we've only been married for 2 years.
I think I get that.
Because we had the renewal thing, didn't we, and the baptism and all that. So we kind of, that's our official wedding anniversary now, is in August. Although, as Gemma said to me yesterday, do you remember what day it was in August? And I said, it was a Saturday. She said, yeah, but what date? And I said, it wasn't the 10th, because that was my birthday. So it was something like the 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th or 15th.
And were any of those right?
I'm not sure. Yeah, 14th, I think, or was it 15th? I don't know. But I always remembered the first official wedding anniversary, because it was St. David's Day, which was the 1st of March.
Right.
Anyway, why did I start talking about that?
There was a reason for it.
You said about Gemma and Facebook.
Oh, in the Facebook, yes. So from Facebook, the following question.
Paul, who came with me. Well, actually, I went with him. He was the one that organised it to the Martin Parr Foundation last night. Paul Waring sent in approximately 1,000 questions on Facebook. So I'm cherry picking some of them. Here we go. He says, "Hola, photography therapists. What is the most unusual or downright worst piece of photography gear you've been duped into buying?"
Oh.
We all suffer from gas and spending our hard-earned money on something we definitely didn't need, with the assumption we'll be better.
I think I've still got it in this cupboard. Hold on. And it's not your 35mm, because that would be amazing. Can you see that, Kev?
Yeah.
That is it's made by Parrot, and I'm sure some people have made great use out of this.
Oh, it's a teleprompter.
It is. It's a small teleprompter to go on the front of small lenses.
Yeah, stick your phone under it.
Stick your phone under it, and then you hold it out at an arm's reach, and you've got a teleprompter machine.
Yeah, well, I actually have that. I can't see it, of course. We can't see it. I guessed it was the teleprompter. But I have a Parrot teleprompter. When I do my YouTube stuff, I use it all the time.
Oh, do you?
Yeah. think it works really well.
Well, I do. Well, I have a teleprompter thing, but it's a larger one because I always found the Parrot one too small. The other one was a Gary thingy bob. It was the thing you put on the top of your flash. All it ever did was fall off mine.
Yeah. I remember that. Yeah, I tell you what, that's a great biography though. If you ever get Gary Fong's biography, I can't remember what it's called. It must be around on eBay and Amazon and stuff. Really, really, really good. Talk about a fella that worked hard and got his just rewards.
Oh God, yeah.
Very good. And then his house burned down or something, which is awful. But anyway, well, so for me, it's, and I suspect this is why Paul asked this question, because a couple of years ago, or maybe it was last year at the photography show, Paul said, "Oh, you got to get one of these things," and I'm not going to mention the brand or the name of it because they are actually really very good. But it's one of those things that you can do Lightroom editing in with a like buttons and dials, and it's like a little paddle thing.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, I got one of them. It's great. And so I walked over with Paul. I spent about 150 quid on this thing that I literally have never used.
And you're not going to tell us what this thing is.
I don't want to mention the name because I know that a lot of people use them and they are really good. Paul swears by it, for example, and I know a lot of people. The reason why I just don't get on with it is because I like mouse. I can't use.
I know what you're talking about. I've got one as well.
Yeah,
I've never used it.
Yeah, exactly. So, but they are very good. But I'm not going to say what it is. But
I know what you mean. Yeah.
It's one of those things. And Paul was like, "Yeah, it's great." And I literally just went,
"Not for me. Not for me." Yeah.
So,
on the flip side, things that I really would like, that I think would be really useful. I mentioned some magnetic filters.
Yeah.
And Quinn White got in touch. Now, you have to believe whatever Quinn White says is correct, because he is an assistant professor in the philosophy department of Harvard University.
My word.
I mean, there is a man you would never argue with.
No.
And he would be my wingman at any pub quiz. But he said, I use the Case system with a K, and they're amazing. They come in great sizes, very fast, and very nice. Since I got mine, they even came out with a set that has colour-coded knurled grips, so you can quickly tell your 3 from your 6 and a 10 stop. The one thing to note is the CPL is also a magnet, and while it's easy enough to spin, it's not as smooth as on a filter that screws on and then has the filter spinning on bearings of some kind. Anyway, I love mine, he says. So there we go. Case, Kase.
Excellent. From a assistant professor of philosophy, no doubt.
He's got to be right. Everything he says is correct.
Yeah. Right, I'll squeeze another one in from Paul.
Yeah.
Greetings, Snapchaps. Can you recall the biggest lesson you've had in your career? An event, realization, or epiphany that really changed your outlook or the way you do things? And the reason why I'm squeezing this in, because the biggest lesson I had in my career is to never walk around a photography show with Paul Waring.
Why?
Boom.
Why should you never walk around with Paul Waring at a...
Because he's the fellow what made me buy that thing that I don't use.
Oh, that makes sense. The biggest lesson I've ever learned is never to ask somebody to cut a wedding cake by chopping the top off it. Because that's how I got... It's a shot I'm proud of, but on the profiterole, never... French cakes are often cut by slicing them with a knife. A sword, usually, aren't they? A big sword. Yeah. And the top goes flying off in slow motion at 240 frames per second. Yeah. And profiterole cakes are one thing that you can take a sword to. Not if they've got some doweling going right up the middle of them, holding the whole thing together. Because then the cake just flies off.
Yeah.
Try explaining that.
It is a great picture, though.
No, sorry. Didn't mean for that to happen. But that's a bit of a frivolous thing, Kev. I don't know. What's yours? I'll try and think of a more serious one.
No, my one is don't go anywhere with Paul Waring.
Oh, is it? Okay. I will stick with 2 frivolous as this. Does he have a third one? I like his questions.
He's got loads of questions.
Go on, then. Let's do a third.
Let's do another one. Right. Okay, next one he said is, hi to the pair without hair.
Does every single one have a preamble to it?
A little anecdote at the beginning.
I love it. See, has he got 100 of these? We could do a whole series.
If you were given £250,000, an X100V, and a year off, where would you go? Obviously, I'm looking for potential photography-rated expeditions or projects. I know Kev is probably going to tell me he would leave the camera, Gemma and the kids at home and spend a year in the Bahamas on a bar.
Probably not on a bar stool. You'd be in a hot tub at a bar.
Yeah.
That's what you'd do. These are brilliant questions.
So you've got £250,000 and an X100V.
Yeah.
And a year to do something. What are you going to do?
I could probably sell it for $250,000. You can't get hold of them.
You could. Yeah, you could sell the X100V and then have £500,000.
You could. Oh, I don't know. Where would I go with it? Oh, the world is our oyster. I tell you where I would go, because I feel I've got lots of unfinished business. Well, I've got an unfinished story there for a start. Is I would love to head back to West Africa, because I really want to.
You're going there. You're going there, though.
I'm going on there. Yeah, I'm going. So does that not count then? I'm not allowed to include that one.
No, because you got. Well, yeah, I suppose you could. Yeah, you've got a year to do it. £250,000 and X100V. Yeah, I suppose. No,
I know. I've thought of another one. I've always wanted to go to the Arctic on one of those big icebreaker boats, one of those big sort of expedition boats. I've always wanted to go to the Arctic. I'd have to take a lot of batteries because they'd run out quickly, wouldn't they?
Yeah, I think they got electricity in those booths, though, don't they? Haven't they? Because you get like tourist ships turn up, don't they, and stuff like that.
No, it wasn't that, Kev. I meant that as I take the camera out, a cold camera, cold batteries are going to run out quicker.
Yeah, they will. You're right. It's not going to cost you 250. You've got to spend £250,000 on this project. So just go in somewhere. That's the challenge of the question. It needs to be something that has an added expense.
Oh, what about hiring something like one of the, because you can get them, one of these jet fighters? And I'm just trying to spend 250k now, Kev. This isn't really the way it's supposed to work, is it?
Did you see that documentary about the guy that sued Pepsi for, I think it was Pepsi, he wanted to fight it. It was in the 70s or 80s, and it was a TV advert, and it said you could win a fighter jet, and he figured out a way of collecting all of the vouchers. You just needed the vouchers, and they wouldn't give it to him. It was a really interesting documentary. It went on for about 20 years, the lawsuit. Was that
definitely Pepsi? Should we check?
I'm sure it was Pepsi. I don't really know.
I'm just going to look at what was it? Pepsi lawsuit documentary. There we go. Is that the one?
About a jet fighter.
A new documentary. That was it. When Cola brand launched a points for prizes scheme in the 90s, John Leonard spotted a loophole and fought for what he saw as rightly his, a Harrier jump jet.
Yeah. Pepsi, does it say Cola brand, or are you just being...
No, that's what the first bit said. But then, this is from The Guardian. In 1996, PepsiCo, then known for creating the young, cool, carbonated drink of a generation, made an incredible mistake. Their words. And then it goes on about their Pepsi Points scheme, in which customers, or consumers, if you like, could save Pepsi labels and redeem them against Pepsi branded merchandise.
Don't ruin it for people.
60 tokens would get you a hat. 400, you get a denim jacket. But anybody who collected 7 million labels will be eligible for a brand new Harrier jump jet, and that's where I'll stop.
Yes. What's the name of the documentary?
It was PepsiCo as a company. The documentary. Oh, it doesn't say. It doesn't say what the documentary is called.
Search it up. We'll find it out and we'll put it in the links. But it's really good. It's really, really good. Really interesting.
Yeah. Okay. Do you know what happened at the end? No, don't tell us. That would be a spoiler.
Yeah, I'm not going to tell you what happened at the end.
Okay. Have you found out what you would do with your?
No, I'm kind of. I was thinking along the same lines. I think I'd need more than 250,000. I think I need probably about 85 million. For what I want to do. I don't know. I'd like to. So what? Maybe if we have to. So okay, I'm going to answer this twice. I'm going to answer it in the way you did first, which is nothing to do with the £250,000 or spending it all. So what I'd like to do is take a photograph of the oldest living person on all of the inhabited islands of Britain. That's my little project in my head.
Wow. Okay.
So like the Isle of Arran and the Isle of Man and everywhere else, all of those places. Go around and spend a day with each of them. However, that probably wouldn't also come to £250,000. So what I'd like to do is find a very, very small grassroots football club and give them the £250,000 and spend a year just documenting what happened next. Actually, not football, rugby.
Brilliant.
Rugby is much better than football.
There we go.
Yeah, not cricket. I'd rather hit myself over the head with the camera rather than watch cricket. Who is it? Who did Justified Ages of Moo Moo?
KLF.
KLF,
And Tammy Wynette, wasn't it?
Well, they did that song with her, yeah. But the White Album, they said, if we make £1 million, we're going to burn it because the world's too capitalist, and they did.
Did they?
Yeah, there's a documentary about that as well.
They must have got in trouble for that. All the good things they could do with that money.
Well, I know whether they're justified and ancient. They can do what they want.
Oh, I suppose so. Right. Book of the week. Book of the week. What have you got, Kev?
So I've got a lovely book that was sent to me by another photographer, Tony Hart, who I was photographing him in my studio a couple of weeks ago.
Tony Hart?
Yes.
Not the Tony Hart of the art and Vision On.
No.
Here is the gallery. Do 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 do. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do. I purposely didn't go down the route of chatting about it.
Okay, sorry. Tony Hart's still alive?
You're not sure.
Oh, okay.
Might be.
Well, all I can find is the Tony Hart School of Motoring, and I'm sure that's not right.
You're morphing this into a conversation it shouldn't be.
I know. Go on. Carry on.
Do you see the joke? Morphing.
Oh, Kev. That was the money joke.
This book, which is beautiful, is called Lump,
right.
The Dog Who Ate a Picasso.
Oh, right.
Have you ever heard of it? I'd never heard of this book, and it's somewhat of a iconic book, really. I'll read out the blurb. One spring morning in 1957, veteran photojournalist David Douglas Duncan, DDD for short, paid a visit to his friend and frequent photographic subject, Pablo Picasso, at the artist's home near Cannes. As a co-pilot alongside Duncan in his Mercedes Gullwing 300 SL was the photographer's pet dachshund, Lump.
Yeah.
Photographer and dog were close companions, but Duncan's nomadic lifestyle and his other dog, a giant jealous Afghan hound who had a tormented Lump, made their life in Rome difficult. When they arrived at Picasso's villa on that historic day, Lump decides that he had found paradise on earth and that he would move in with Picasso, whether the artist welcomed him or not. This is the background for a totally original book that offers an uncommonly sensitive portrait of Picasso. Lump was immortalized in a Picasso portrait painted on the plate the day they met. But that was just the beginning in a suite of 45 paintings, reinterpreting masterpieces. Picasso replaced the impassive hound in the foreground with jaunty renderings of Lump.
Oh, my God. This picture of Lump, which is the line drawing, which is just simply called Dog, by Pablo Picasso. That picture is hanging up at a venue I went to only a couple of weeks ago. That's Lump.
That's Lump.
I never knew.
Yeah. So anybody who knows anything about art will recognize Lump as soon as they see the picture.
Yeah.
Because he has been featured a lot. But the book is not about the art of Picasso. It's a photo story. It's a photo essay of of Picasso himself, and the relationship with the dog, and the dog is in most of the pictures, and all of that kind of stuff. So here I've just turned to page 18. One afternoon, Picasso started a new day while Lump was exploring the home he had just chosen for himself. I love the fact this dog's just gone, yeah, this'll do. After glancing up at me, he looked around the garden at La Californie, which was his house. This is titled Goodbye Gypsy, and I'll just move forward a bit. Yeah, it's lovely kind of black and white picture. Mostly if you're a Picasso fan, then you're going to find this really interesting because it's a lot of behind the scenes stuff going on. And
there's lots of silly pictures as well, aren't there?
It's very quirky.
Daftness,
Esmeralda was tied to Esmeralda, her hitching post. Picasso and Jacqueline walked together, sharing spring sunshine, while Lump nearly choked himself, driven by curiosity about his new home, Esmeralda being a goat, by the looks of it. Yeah, it's lovely. It really is. I haven't had time to look through it too much, but it's a beautiful book and fun book. And I know Picasso has, he's not everybody's favourite person, or wasn't everybody's favourite person.
Artist, yeah. He was divisive in the art world, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's a good way of terminology.
There is a lovely picture from the book where Picasso is lighting up a cigarette, and Jacqueline, who would have been his other half, yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, am I right with that? I think so. Yeah. And was sat there, and she's got Lump on her lap, and Picasso has just finished the plate picture of Lump, And I would imagine the next picture in this sequence is that Lump comes round to look at the plate, and you can see him Picasso showing him the plate, and Lump's looking at it, and that kind of like, it's all right, I suppose. I mean, it's a bit 2D, isn't it? Probably worth a couple of mil, though.
Yeah. It's absolutely. I mean, I just love it. I love it because I just didn't have any idea this book existed. And as soon as I opened it up and I saw the dog, I was like, oh my God, so many things fell into place.
Yeah.
And, the back page, the very last spread on the back is just a portrait of Lump, him looking directly in the camera. And it just says, Amigos Forever. And then it says Picasso, 1881 to 1973, Lump, 1956 to 1973.
What a lovely story.
Yeah, it is a lovely story. A really nice book. It is Thames and Hudson is the publisher. You can get it in all kinds of other places, I would imagine. And I really like it. I really, really like it. Very nice. I'm going to take this home and put this on my coffee table.
I was looking at there's a legacy story about Lump. The painted plate that Picasso created on their first meeting was donated to the Harry Ransom Centre. Similar painted plates, though, have sold at auction for between $20,000 and $90,000 each. Picasso painted 44 studies of Lump. Oh no, Lump only appeared in 15 of them. How does that work out? Anyway, Lump was worth a lot of money, basically. Lump had an absolutely pampered life. Picasso once said, Lump, he's not a dog. He's not a little man. He's somebody else.
Indeed. Yeah, it is a really nice story, isn't it? Love it. A little bit of humanity to a person that is elevated probably above most people's understanding of their personality.
There's a nice end to this. Sorry, Kev. Lump, I thought there was going to be a really sort of sad story, but in 1964, Lump was found to be unwell. He was suffering from a spinal condition, leaving him without the use of his back legs. And the local vet decided not to feed him anymore, and that was it. They were going to put Lump to sleep. But they sought a second opinion. They took Lump to Stuttgart in Germany, where they found a specialist vet who treated him over several months, and Lump went on to live for another 10 years.
There we go. Yeah, very nice.
Happy ending.
Died the same year as Picasso, 1973.
10 days before Picasso.
Same year I was born.
1973?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. Blimey, Kev. That means it's the big birthday this year.
Big 50.
What are you doing for it? You're away, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm going to go away. Yeah. 6 weeks. I'm going to pick the kids up from school the day they finish. We're going to get in the car and we're just going to drive.
You're back to Spain for a whole month, aren't you? 6 weeks.
Well, hopefully that's where we'll end up. Yeah. But we're going to just go somewhere. Brilliant. I don't know where. Merthyr, the Gurtnos Estate, Port Talbot, places like that.
I don't think Merthyr, Kev. Right, your question from Facebook.
Is it my question?
Yeah. Oh, is it my turn?
It's your turn.
All right, okay. This is quite a new one. This is Jussi Jääskeläinen.
Jääskeläinen, I would say, because there was a Jääskeläinen that played for Liverpool. That's how you pronounced it.
Hey, Neil. Hey, Kev. Long-time listener, first-time writer. First up, thanks for the show, both informative and relaxing for some nice afternoon walks. You are, as always, looking for more questions, so I've got a couple for you. One, when shooting F-Log on the X-T4 and 16 to 55 2.8 lens in manual exposure mode, follow along, Kev, I get slight variations in exposure when zooming in or out whilst recording. What causes this to happen? How do I avoid it?
Yeah, I think that was a bug. Whether they fixed that in, I know that was a thing, that there was a exposure shift when the lens was kind of breathing through, which there shouldn't be if you're shooting manually. So yeah, whether there was a firmware update for either the lens or the camera, I do not know, but it was a thing. But yeah, if they haven't fixed it, then you can't fix it.
Because immediately I was going to say turn off your auto ISO, but of course he said manual exposure mode. Yeah,
yeah, exactly. And the only reason I know that is because we had a question about it previously, similar question in the Facebook group, and I ended up speaking to one of the engineers in Japan about it, and they said yes, that is something that we're aware of and should be fixed. So XT4 is, I doubt there'll be many more, if any, firmware updates for the XT4 in the future. I may well be very wrong on that. So get your latest firmware in there see if that fixes it. If not, give Fujifilm support a call and see if they have any other workarounds for it.
Who are you going to call? Do people actually write yada? This is his second question. Do people actually write yada, yada, yada in the questions? Or do you simply add it in yourself when you're reading them out loud? Thanks for the show. Best regards, Jussi Jääskeläinen. P.S. I should have read this bit first. I am not the footballer, just to make that clear.
Oh, I was getting so excited. Yeah. There we go.
Well, it might have been. There's no reason why Jääskeläinen wouldn't have been a fond photographer.
No, this is very true.
And he would have had a great place to make pictures, wouldn't he? Look at that. Look at that past he's had. Anyway, do we add the yada yada in? No, often they now come with the yada 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 complete, don't they?
That seems to have stopped. I stopped doing yada yada yada.
Yeah. Well, maybe you should add it in again, Kev.
Yeah, I will. Next time people start saying we love the podcast and stuff, I'm just going to go yada 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 yada. That's where it started.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that lovely gentleman who came up to me last night and said, "Oh, I love the podcast," I should have just gone yada 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 yada.
You should have done. You might have thought you were a bit strange.
In a bald short man's huff.
Probably. Have we got time for one more? Have we got a short one from Facebook?
Yeah, I'm sure I can.
I nearly said it then, Kev. I nearly said it. I stopped myself.
Right, short one. Let's go. Okay, Sam Huntley says, "Hi fellas, do you convert your RAW files from .raf to .dng file format?"
Short answer, no.
Yes, no. Correct.
And why don't you, Kev?
There's just not really any point, is there? DNG is an open source, was meant to be open source format, a non-proprietary format made by Adobe, so that like if all cameras use that, then everything would be great. But it never worked out that way. No. So it's not really necessary, although some people do convert to DNG if the RAW converters do not support their cameras yet. For example, when there's a new camera out, etc., etc. But Sam, no, the answer is no. You do not need to. Some pieces of software, such as alien skin exposure or some other bits and pieces that you can plug into some applications, might convert to DNG, but you should have an option to convert to TIFF instead. In which case, I would suggest you choose TIFF.
Oh, would you? Not RAW. All right, okay. And that's it. Well, thank you very much for that. Now, Kev, there's a bonus part of today, that bonus part being thanks to our wonderful sponsors, pic-time.com, which, if you are a photographer, then this is just the best way to show your work online following a gig, to have really very attractive galleries, sell your work, sell them straight into producing and providing albums, prints, all sorts of stuff. I know I can speak on behalf of us both with complete confidence, Kev, when I say I think it made, well, not I think, no, it made all the difference in my print sales personally. What about yours?
Yeah, absolutely. And don't forget you can get a free month with the code FUJICAST, all uppercase. And if you hang around, you will listen to the interview between myself, Narita, and Amir.
And that's going to be about the new blogging system, yeah?
The new blogging features, but also really interesting kind of history of the company.
Right, okay. So that's it's a bonus edition, which is immediately after this, immediately after you hear us say, we shall see you next time. Bye, Kev!
The Fujicast is an independent loading zone production. Email the show with your questions and words of wisdom to click@fujicast.co.uk. Email any complaints and political nonsense to our wives, who will deal with your comments in their own good time and in their own good way.
So today, everybody, we have Amir and Narit, who are the co-founders of Pic-Time, who have kind of been sponsoring the show for a few months. So Amir and Narit, welcome to the show. Tell me a little bit about the background of Pic-Time, where it came about, the story, and all of that stuff.
Okay, so me and Narit, actually, we are also a couple in life outside of Pic-Time. And Narit is a photographer. I'm coming from a computer science background. And basically, Narit had the idea a very long time ago, in 2005. But it took us some time until the opportunity presented that we'll start and work on that. We launched in 2016. We launched for the independent photographers, Pic-Time for independent photographers. We did some work before that for white labels and so on. in 2016, we started launching the platform for independent photographers, and since then, this is our focus, what we do. The concept in a nutshell, what we're trying to help photographers leverage their photos, whether it's art or for client, for pay, leverage it to the maximum business potential online. So to maximize the traffic, the brand impact, the online sales, the relationship with their customers. So this is where we focus all our energy around.
Wonderful, wonderful, and it is a really beautiful product. I've been using it for many years, and we've seen various updates and modifications. And I know in the Pic-Time Facebook community is very active, and you have an active role in that. And so the communication from the photographers back to you and the development team is critical. And it's great to see it, grow and mature and become this amazing tool that I think all professional photographers really should embrace. And now we have something very new that's come in to Pic-Time in the not too distant future. And I think we can talk about it now. And do you want to explain a little bit more about this new blogging feature? And I've had a preview of it, and I'm absolutely amazed by it. So it looks like a great addition.
Okay. So just to answer or to relate to something you said about we are pushing updates and so on, this is one of the core, I think, values in Pic-Time is to all the time to be dynamic, to change, to improve the product. We have a long roadmap ahead of us. We think that this area of helping photographers leverage the photos to business, there's a lot of innovation that can be done around it. And this is, so it's interesting for us because it's all the time, it's a search, and we balance, like you said in the group, we balance some of the work from feedback we're getting from photographers and also things that we want to push, new things we want to push into the market. But this is very exciting, actually, this direct connection with customers and the ability to immediately have an impact, implement that into the system. It's very cool situation.
We have a long debate about holding a group without how do you call it?
Moderating it, yeah.
Without moderating it is a thing. I don't know how much you're aware, but there are a lot of groups where you only see like positive things and coming with the answer already, and it's like a beautiful pink word. So our group is like something else. It's very, very, sometimes it's not reflecting exactly the reality, but it's like very lively, and this is something that Amir really want to keep it as is, with all the sometimes things are not like correct.
Pleasant to hear.
Yeah, pleasant to hear, or it's a user mistake. There are all kinds of things, but we learn from it so much. The ability to leave it really open for our users is something that we see as something that we gain from it a lot. So this is part of it, how the product is growing. Another thing that I wanted to say about the product is you can see the amount of team that is in the product versus, for example, the marketing. So the product team in Pic-Time is really big. There are companies where it's different proportions. And I think that we really care a lot about the product, and we have indefinite passion to bring new things for photographers. So that's about that. Now you can talk about the blogs, Amir.
So did that come directly from, was this something that you picked up in the feedback from the community, the idea of blogging, or was this something that you had on the roadmap a long time ago?
So no, actually, no, we didn't have it on the roadmap. We did have the slideshows, for example, and we do have other stuff coming, like the marketing that we did in the past and the new things on the road. But actually, blogging came from interaction with photographers, and it is becoming part of the strategic platform that we are building. It came from a webinar, I think.
Yeah, it came from a webinar with two men that described their workflow, and they said that the first thing they're doing is blogging, and that was the moment that Amir really thought, really? Oh, okay, then you need to do blogs.
Yeah, no, it was a teaser. It was
a teaser, yeah, but that was the seed, like the spark.
Yeah, it was a webinar. Actually, we were not part. I was not part. I was sitting in the living room watching it on the TV. It was our webinar, but and they mentioned the workflow, and it made sense. So when it made sense, then we started to investigate, and we saw there's first of all, almost all photographers we met says blogging is important, and almost all of them said in the last 12 to 18 months they didn't do it.
Yeah,
which was kind of a very interesting gap. And then we started to explore, and so basically we're launching now the first version. There's updates coming, but we see a lot of potential in the curated blogging experience. And the main focus we took for this product, and it integrates with our general vision of helping use the photos to leverage. In this case, it's more the marketing, branding than the online sales, but it's on our core mission. And the main thing we are focusing is to help photographers. So those who do today blogging, that's fine. You can continue to do blogging the way you are, where you do. We're not obsessed of moving people to our platform or to our, if they're already in the platform, to use the specific feature just for the sake of them doing so. The main thing here is to help those that think it's important and it's too complicated, or they're finding themselves not doing it because it's too much effort for them, to reduce it and to enable them to do that. So there's a lot of focus on how to make it easy and fast for photographers to incorporate this important tool, and then how to easily deploy it into websites, just a landing page for your clients, just to give them the blog as is, or to post it on social media. So all this envelope around it on easy making and easy sharing. So this is the main focus that we took for this product.
Yeah, and it looks amazing. I've seen the preview of it, and you're dead right, because the problem we all have as photographers is, especially kind of wedding social photographers, is that by the time you typically blog maybe a few months after the event, and you've delivered the gallery, and the Pic-Time gallery's gone out, the slideshow's gone out, everybody's happy, and then it's time to blog, and then you have to go back to your Lightroom catalog, you have to think about that, you have to find the images again. And I just love this idea of just going, actually, they're all there. They're there already in the gallery. I can just select the images, and the layouts are beautiful. Because one of the things that I think is so well conceived with Pic-Time is just the design, the overall feel of the product is, feels just right, luxurious almost, and it's, I sell my Pic-Time clients, I sell my Pic-Time gallery to my clients as an added benefit. I say, you will get this website, this private website, you have full control, and look at this, and I show it to them, and they're like, wow, that's great, that will be ours. And I say, yeah, of course. And now this ability to blog and stuff, we'll take it forward. And I think one of the main questions that I think people will have is how will that operate? So let's just say, for example, myself, I have a Squarespace website, and I blog on there. How will this manifest itself? How will, if I create a blog post in Pic-Time, will it be some kind of link back, or can it be integrated like the slideshows? How will it work?
So you can integrate that into Squarespace. Just take a code from Pic-Time, and then you integrate it as a code block or HTML block. I don't remember exactly how it's called in Squarespace, but it's like a simple integration into the site. After you do that, you may modify things in Pic-Time. They will reflect in the Squarespace. So it's not something you need to keep on doing if you have something to modify on the blog itself.
So it'll be just like integrating a slideshow currently with Squarespace, same thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and the blog itself actually has also integration, embedding capability. So you can embed slideshows in the blog, you can embed videos in the blog, you can embed also other code, like other sites, like we do into Squarespace. You can also take, let's say, Calendly or Google Maps or these type of things, and also integrate them as part of your blogs. The idea, again, is to create this curated experience. And workflow-wise, you mentioned the workflow, let's say post-publish workflow, where the gallery went out and now you come back and doing the blog. There's also the workflow which is supported. So when you do the blog, you can use, let's say, favorites that people did in order to filter which photos you want. You can use any collection in Pic-Time. Even people, you can use the slideshow as a collection. You can use orders as a collection, favorites. So the idea is to make it easy for you to select the photos from that sense. But workflow-wise, we are trying to push also that on Lightroom, when you edit, you will rate, let's say, 5 stars for the blog, 4 stars for the slideshow, and so on. Pic-Time knows to, when you export to Pic-Time, Pic-Time knows to recognize these stars. So in Lightroom, when you go through photos, you can already map the candidates that you want for each channel. And then in Pic-Time, it's very easy to filter. Give me the 5 stars plus this one and create a blog. And we invested a lot. You said about the design. It was very good to hear that this is how you feel, because it is one of the major values. It's like the design and the technology. The design is the first one. And we invested a lot in the design.
Yeah, and it all comes together so well. It's just, it's a complete package that I think, like you just mentioned again, that, it just feels like it all works together. It doesn't feel like you've got 3 different platforms, 3 different providers, slideshows, galleries, blogs, all of that kind of stuff. It just works, which is, the nicest thing about it, really. It's just working, which is great. Now, the blogging element, will that be a extra subscription like HD slideshows, or will it be part of the existing pricing scheme? Do you know that yet, or is that up for discussion?
It's even it's not just the data, it's like a whole theory around it.
Yes.
It's not just the detail, it's deciding if it's included or not. It's like really a whole perception of giving the full solution for products that will elevate the value of your image. Because we believe it should be part of the workflow, and it's so essential for photographers today to be present in different ways. It's not just the gallery, there's also in social, there's also the blog. We didn't talk about it, but the blog is like, people are coming back to it because social is, it's such a hard place with algorithm and everything. You can't really control a lot of things. Your visibility can be limited, can be great, but can also be limited. The videos are first. There are so many changes happening there. So the blog is still like such a reliable way. So because we believe that this should be part of the workflow, we offer it as part of our packages of the professional ones. But Amir, do you want to add something about it?
Yes, basically this is Nilit started to say, but didn't say the final word. That we call it complete, like you said it.
Right.
It's a complete solution. We call our package complete, and it's kind of a philosophy. Usually, software companies break their products into pieces. It is better economically for software because it helps sometimes it helps reduce the price, and then you have people that will go for that. It helps you make different perception of the product. And there were a lot of debates, and we decided to go with the concept of complete. And the main thing is, it's important for us that photographers that use us will be successful. We don't want them to start saying, I won't use this feature. We want them to use as much as they can in order to maximize the business. And it's very important to us that the community of users we have will improve or progress and all the time adapt new workflows, because it's changing also for photographers, not only for us as a software company. The world is changing. You need all the time to adapt, and you need your workflow to use different channels and different ways. So the slideshow is included, the blogs is included, marketing is included. So we kind of made one package, and we say, please use whatever you want.
Excellent.
The short answer is yes.
It's included. Brilliant. I think that's what everybody wanted to hear. Okay, so I know that you're both very busy, so I won't keep you any longer. Thank you so much for your time and your support for the podcast, most importantly. But thank you also, I think, from every single wedding photographer I certainly know for creating Pic-Time, because I think it's it's been a game changer for a lot of people.
Thank you so much. It's great to hear that.